Today's video is brought to you by creativesdothis.com.
There was a man, and he walked towards us and he walked back again.
And what does he look like?
His face was like this, and his eyes were down here.
Like, what, further down his face?
Yeah, much further down than us, because our eyes are here, his are down.
He looked like definitely not a human. I don't know really. He had a big head and big black eyes and was dressed in a black bodysuit. Tight fitting.
And what was his arms and his hands and his legs like?
Like humans, but he definitely didn't look like one.
It's just after 10 in the morning. The sun is bright, the sky is clear, and the children of Ariel School in Ruwa, Zimbabwe are pouring onto the playground for break time. There are 247 students outside. Many of them gather near the tuck shop, a small outdoor snack stand. Others wander towards the far edge of the field, where the school grounds end and the brush begins. And that's when they see it. A round metallic object, hovering low over the trees. It's silent, it's close, and it's not alone. Moments later, a small figure appears just beyond the tree line. Jet black suit, large head, eyes too big for its face. One girl stares at the being, and she says she hears its voice in her mind. She said that it warned her about something that's going to happen. Another child runs, another collapses. Within minutes, dozens of children are screaming, crying, and trying to get inside. They tell their teachers that something landed in the trees, that something climbed out, and that something looked them in the eye and said that everything on Earth is about to break. The teachers did not believe them at first, but a phone call is about to change everything. And within just days, the BBC, the MUFON, and a Harvard psychiatrist will all descend on a quiet school in southern Africa because they all believe the truth is out there. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. You are now in the home of rare and unseen true crime cases, of unsolved and unexplained mysteries, and of other things that you may later regret knowing. I know it's in the thumbnail, but I just want to quickly reiterate that I am a human being. This isn't just another AI slop channel. In fact, this is a hectic, coffee-fueled stress fest over here, but I love it and I love you too, so it's all worth it. I just want to mention Creatives Do This quickly, because as a lifelong creative myself, I know it can be a struggle at times to know where to start or what to do next. So I created Creatives Do This to solve that problem, by interviewing successful creatives that are already out there doing it, and distilling that information into insanely helpful, priceless tools and cheat sheets. If you are creatively minded, even if you haven't started yet, then click the link below. And now for today's silly little question: do you believe in aliens? Let me know down in the comments. This one is absolutely wild, by the way, it gives me chills. So let's open up today's dark case and jump right in. 2 days before the Ariel School incident, on the night of Wednesday, September the 14th, 1994, the skies over southern Africa exploded in colour. In Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana and South Africa, witnesses reported a bright glowing fireball streaking across the sky just before 10 p.m. Some said that it was as bright as the moon. Others said it left a glowing trail and 2 smaller lights behind it. Radio Zimbabwe's nightly calling program was flooded with reports. Truck drivers, farmers, and even air traffic control reported this sighting. Among those listening was Cynthia Hind, a veteran journalist, and the official African representative of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. She's documented over 150 sightings across the continent. To her, this was simply Case 95. The working theory at the time was that it had been a meteor breaking up in the atmosphere, possibly part of the Gamma Piscids meteor shower. But for Hind, it felt like something was coming. She didn't have long to wait. So by Friday morning, just 36 hours after the fireball, Hind's phone rang. A BBC correspondent had just received a strange tip. At a private school in Ruwa, a group of children had just reported a landing. This wasn't just some mysterious lights or something in the distance. Instead, it was a craft on the ground with beings. And that case would become Hind's number 96. And for the rest of her life, she would call it the most important UFO incident that she had ever investigated. It's now Friday, September the 16th, 1994. At 10:15 a.m., the children at Ariel School are outside on their mid-morning break. The school is located in Ruwa, a farming district about 20 kilometers southeast of Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe. Despite the remote setting, Ariel is an elite private school. Most of the students are from wealthy families, business owners, diplomats and professionals. Many of them are white Zimbabweans. Others are from South Africa, Zambia or Europe. On this day, the teachers were in a staff meeting. Only one adult, a woman working at the tuck shop, was supervising 247 students. And that's when the story really begins.
The day before the spaceship came, my friends and I were sitting in the playground, and one of my friends, her name Emily, she looked up into the sky and she said, "Oh, there's a UFO." She said, and I looked at it and she said, "No, just kidding, it's an airplane." And we looked up and I thought to myself, that can't be an airplane because it was very shiny. It looked kind of like a cigarette, you know? It was a long thing and then on the end it was all shiny. And so I said, maybe it is a UFO. So we were all kind of like getting scared now. And then the day that it happened, then we started thinking, yeah, there must have been a UFO in the sky. Because my brother also saw it, but he's left the school now. Mm-hmm.
Around 60 children, mostly between the ages of 6 and 12, they gathered at the far end of the field near the tree line. They reported seeing one or more metallic discs in the sky, shiny, domed and silently gliding towards the earth. Several say that it landed or just hovered beyond the trees. And then, something stepped out. The children later described the short being about 3 to 4 feet tall. They said it had a slim body, a black shiny suit and a massive head. But it was the eyes that none of them could forget. They said they were jet black, almond-shaped, and they had no white. They said those eyes were staring at them directly. A girl named Liesel later told a reporter, "I looked into its eyes and saw a message, a terrible message, about how the earth was going to die." Some of the children screamed, some cried, some of them ran back towards the school buildings. Others are frozen in place, just staring. One student later says the figure moved in a slow gliding motion, and then it just vanished, either into the craft or into thin air. They said that the encounter lasted no more than 15 minutes. When the bell rings, the children rush back to class, shaken and breathless. They tell their teachers what they saw, but the teachers think it's all nonsense or mass imagination or a game. And so nobody calls the police, and nobody alerts the parents, and the teachers are left skeptical, until that is, the children start drawing. By lunchtime, word had spread across the classrooms. Students who didn't witness the event are now hearing the story secondhand. Some of the students are skeptical as well as the teachers, but others are drawing pictures. And that's when a few of the teachers, especially Eileen Moye and Judy Bates, they started to notice something strange. The drawings that the children were doing were detailed. Many of them showed the same disc shape with a dome and legs or beams beneath it. The beings were almost identical from page to page. Large black eyes, no visible nose or ears, long black hair or shadows around the head, and tight, dark clothing. And you might think that that doesn't sound too strange, maybe the kids just copied each other. However, they weren't together when they drew these pictures. Some of the children couldn't even read yet, so an in-depth conspiracy doesn't seem too realistic. The headmaster at the time, Colin Mack, is shown the sketches. He reportedly tells a colleague that he believes the children believe what they're saying. Still though, nobody informs the media. No calls are made to experts or local officials. But the next day, on Saturday, September the 17th, a parent named Morag Kratky contacts BBC Radio Zimbabwe and tells them that her child came home traumatized and it was because of a UFO encounter at school.
You see, and when the bell rang, me, Gary, and Portia were supposed to practice for assembly that day. So we were called out by Stefan, that's one of our friends, and he called us and he said he saw something. So we went. I didn't actually believe that he actually saw something because he was saying it was an alien. And so I went out, and then when I was looking at it, I saw it's like a silver light, and like that kind of spaceship you showed me just coming out, just for an instant, and then it just disappeared, like just like that. And so I first thought it was my imagination because everybody was talking about it. But then when I thought about it, really, I thought, no, it couldn't be.
The radio station makes a few calls. A BBC reporter named Tim Leach decides to drive out to Ruwa. When he arrives on Monday, September the 19th, he films the students. He listens to the same story told over and over again, with just enough variation to make it feel real. The footage he recorded that day has never been officially released, but parts of it still appear in modern documentaries and news clips. And I will try and include some too, but I don't know if it's going to get flagged or not.
And it landed, something landed. Do you see it land?
No, it was in the trees over there, like in the trees, like glinting, and like there was somebody on the ground.
And then what happened?
And then he walked towards us and he walked back again and they just went.
How? How did they go?
It just went all of a sudden.
What, like a helicopter? Went
No,
up?
just went.
Which way?
More down into the valley.
At about what height?
Quite high, like.
And then what happened?
And then it didn't come back again.
And did you girls see that as well?
Yes.
He interviews several of the children. He sees that some of them are still visibly shaken. Some cry during their statements. He tries to film them separately, trying to check their consistency. Many of the statements are clear and calm, and they are frighteningly specific. One girl said, "It looked at me and I couldn't move." Another said, "The eyes were like they were looking inside you." One child suggests the being was sending out messages but without speaking. Another draws a figure with long black hair and no visible mouth. Leach later told colleagues, "I could handle war zones, but I couldn't handle this."
Candace, please tell us what happened that very exciting day.
Me and my friends Claire, Haley and Camilla, we were just walking and then we saw this maroon colour just waving about and it was disappearing and we started to follow it. And then we stood over there on one of the logs and we saw like this silver thing and we decided that we should go down there and see, but Claire said we're not allowed there. So I said, it doesn't matter, let's just go and see. And we got closer and closer and we saw this silver thing just shining it. And we thought that it was just a house with glass reflecting in the sun and shining. Then we thought, no, it can't be that because there's no houses up there on the rocks. And then we waited for a few minutes and we just stared at it and we heard this flute, sort of like a flute noise, and then we got closer and closer and then I saw this black figure running in slow motion and then I didn't want to see it, so I looked away and I looked again and it wasn't there anymore.
You're headmaster of Ariel School. Tell me, what do you think of all this?
I feel sure that the children feel that they did see something. I don't believe or disbelieve, to be perfectly honest. But I do feel that they definitely saw something. We had a number of children say they did. We asked them to draw pictures of what they saw this morning, what they saw on Friday. And after looking at those, I definitely feel that they did see something. I agree that it could be something that we are not common with. But to actually say that it was a UFO, I would be reluctant to make a decision like that. I personally did not see it.
Headmaster Colin Mack remains cautious but calm. He doesn't contact the police or the Ministry of Education, but he doesn't outright dismiss this either. One significant thing about this moment is what actually didn't happen. None of the adults called for medical evaluations. No psychologists are brought in. No physical evidence was collected. Instead, it simply becomes a media story. But by the next day, the most prominent UFO investigator on the continent is now at the school gates. It is Cynthia Hind. She wasn't there to simply take notes. She was there to collect evidence. On Tuesday, September the 20th, Cynthia Hind arrived at the school. She had been MUFON's regional investigator for years. She is not simply a fringe believer, she is methodical, and she's deeply experienced in interviewing people across language, age, and cultural barriers. She sits down with the children in small groups of 4 to 6. They are separated by age and grade, but they are not prevented from hearing each other speak, and that detail will be important later.
We were playing down over there on the log.
Yeah?
And then we saw something shiny, so we all ran down over there.
And it was in the early morning?
It was at break time.
Yeah?
And then we saw something shiny. And we saw two people. They were in tight black suit. And they had big eyes. And we didn't actually see their nose, but it was quite small. And their mouth was quite small as well. One of them was running in slow motion up across the ship, and the other one was standing beside the ship.
Yeah, you made a drawing, huh? It looked like this?
No, yeah, something like that. I couldn't see the eyes or the nose or the mouth. It was just blank, like a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they came, I thought they were crazy.
Was this the first thing you thought?
I thought they were crazy just coming to our school doing nothing. And all I saw was something like silver coming down, and I said, what must that be? And everybody's crowding it. I must go crowd too. And then I went and I started crowding, and everybody, then more people came and more. And then I said, hey, I can't see anymore. Come on, somebody, I'm short. Come on. And then I went to the front and I started seeing more of them, and then I just ran away. It was sort of like a round shape, sort of like a plate, sort of like two plates that were sort of like on top of each other. Then there was sort of like the hatch for it, and there was sort of like in between two trees. But you couldn't see that clearly, and it was just silver all over. And I didn't see any men or something.
Hind makes a critical move. She gives each student a blank piece of paper and says, draw what you saw. And the results are really quite stunning. More than 30 children independently draw the same type of craft, a rounded silver disc with a central dome, and then the beams or legs underneath. Some include a single being, some draw 2. The figure though is almost always the same. Short, slender, dressed in black.
It was sort of like a round shape, sort of like a plate, sort of like two plates that were sort of like on top of each other. Then there was sort of like the hatch for it, and there was sort of like in between two trees. But you couldn't see that clearly, and it was just silver all over. And I didn't see any men or something.
She publishes a report in UFO Afri News where she writes, I believe these children saw something extraordinary, something that changed them. She includes quotes and drawings, and she begins organising follow-up interviews. Hind is not alone in her curiosity. Thousands of miles away in the US, a Harvard professor hears about the case, and he buys a plane ticket to Zimbabwe. His name is Dr. John Mack. It would be his arrival that would take this story from a regional oddity to a global controversy. It would be 2 months after the incident in November of 1994 that Dr. John Mack, a Pulitzer Prize-winning psychiatrist and a professor at Harvard Medical School, arrives in Zimbabwe. Mack is controversial. He's been under investigation by Harvard for his work on alien abduction cases, which he treats as psychologically real, even if not physically proven. He believes that encounters, whether literal or visionary, can change people profoundly. So when he hears that 62 children have just witnessed a craft and beings in broad daylight, he considers it the most compelling case that he's ever heard. Mack conducts over a dozen face-to-face interviews with students at Ariel School. Some of them even appear on camera. One girl stares down at her feet and says softly, "I don't even know if I should be talking about this." "Why?" Mack says. "Because nobody's going to believe me." And again, what comes up time and time again is many of the children describe telepathic communication. They say that the being or beings were trying to warn them about something about the environment, technology, or human self-destruction. One boy says, "We're using too much technology and we don't care for the earth. That's what I got from it." Some children described feeling paralyzed. Others say that they felt the being was inside their head. Mack is cautious with his interpretations, but he writes, "I have never seen anything like this. These are bright, grounded children. They are not making it up." From the beginning, some observers believed that the Ariel incident had a perfectly natural explanation. I mean, it must have done. One of them was Gunther Hoffer, a local astronomer who visited the school just days after the sighting. He noted 2 oval-shaped impressions in the grass, each with a clockwise swirl pattern. To him, it looked exactly like a dust devil, a small whirlwind that can appear suddenly in dry, hot conditions. And indeed, the area around Ariel was dry. Just a heads up, my voice keeps cutting out, so if it sounds more croaky for the rest of the video, I can only apologise. He also noted the trees around the sighting location. They included Strychnos spinosa, a native tree that dropped long, dark, bulbous fruit. In the right lighting, twisted in the air, that fruit might resemble hair or arms. It's also worth noting that a few of the children actually admitted that they thought what they were seeing was a tokoloshi, which is a goblin from African folklore. So the water is getting a little more muddied. Oliver D. Smith, writing in a publication called Sunlight, pointed out that one child even said, "It could have been a branch or something like that." There were also questions raised about contamination. Cynthia Hind's group interviews did allow children to overhear each other.
These made the silver lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're making different colour lights, like green,
like they'd
red,
flash to green, then they'd go to blue,
and then
red,
purple.
Yeah, purple and red. But it was going like each one to each one, but quickly.
Yeah, like you go, like they'll go there and then it'll vanish, and then it'll go there and vanish, and then vanish.
Oh, really? But going quickly. Like as if it was one ship moving to places.
And Mack's belief in UFOs was well known, raising the possibility that leading questions may have shaped the responses of the children. Years later, one of the original witnesses, Dallin, claimed that it all started as a prank. He said that he pointed at a shiny rock and joked that it was a spaceship. And then the other children took that story and ran with it. However, it is worth noting that in footage filmed in the 90s, Dallin did appear to be just as convinced and as shaken as the other children. Critics also proposed mass hysteria, the idea that, in high-stress, unsupervised moments, children may have unconsciously built a shared fantasy from fear and suggestion. But again, at the time, not one of the 62 children ever admitted to lying, and not one of them said that they were coached. If I think back to being at school, the thought of having 62 children all telling the same story is really quite unbelievable. Surely one of them would have spilt the beans. As of today, the Ariel School incident remains unsolved. There is no physical evidence. There is no confirmed radar data. Frustratingly, there is no video of the event itself, but many of the students now in their 30s and 40s still remember it vividly. Emily Trim, now a Canadian artist, said that she still receives messages in visions and dreams. I'm just going to drop this in as an edit. I don't know if I'll sound different or whatever, but I just learned that Emily has actually passed away. As an adult, she wasn't afraid of publicly speaking about how the Ariel School incident stayed with her, saying it was something that shaped her in her life. So years after that incident, Emily later lived with severe diagnosed mental illness, which sadly ultimately ended her career. It seems like for more than a decade she just turned to art and nature as a way to cope with it all, but she carried on creating quietly and privately. In late 2023, Emily was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic melanoma, and she sadly passed away peacefully on November 26, 2024 with her parents by her side. Liesel, who cried in the original interviews, she still struggles to speak about it. Other children have refused all media contact, worried that they'll be mocked, labelled or ignored. One teacher years later admitted, "We thought they were making it up, but when I saw the drawings it changed my mind. The field where it happened has since been cleared. The trees are gone. It's just a sports ground now." And Ariel School has tried to distance itself from this story. In 2014, Judith Bates, a former teacher who became headmistress, told a reporter, "We don't look back. Discussing aliens will not help us at school." But for the children who were there, it never really went away. In 2023, Netflix released a documentary series titled Encounters. It featured interviews with aerial witnesses. Some still believe it was a message from beyond. Others still just want answers. But no matter what actually happened on September 16th, 1994, over 60 children believe that something came down at the edge of that field. They stared at it, and it stared back. Let me know your thoughts on this one down in the comments. I just find that it's hard to completely dismiss it. Today's video was brought to you by creativesdothis.com. Scan the QR code, click the link and join the free newsletter, and we'll send you a ton of free stuff to help you take your creative thoughts and turn them into a stable income and a chilled life. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.